I've been thinking a lot about Martin Scorsese and the comments he made that may or may not have offended some fandoms a few years ago and created a bit of a stir in the cinematic discussion and opened the floodgate for some other directors to share their thoughts on mostly Marvel movies, usually with a higher degree of vitriol than what Scorsese put out.
The value? How do you say the value of a film that's like a theme park film, for example, the Marvel type pictures, where the theaters become amusement parks? That's a different experience, and it's not even. I was saying earlier, it's not cinema; it's something else. You know, whether you go for that or not, but it is something else, and we shouldn't be invaded by it.
I was thinking about this because I recently watched a movie in the cinema. It wasn't a Marvel movie. It was Evil Dead Rise. I'd really recommend watching it, honestly. Scary stuff. I've never seen a horror movie in the theater before. Big picture, six-way sound. You know, it wasn't a packed cinema, but there was a lot of people. It was full, I would say. A few more people would have been packed. When the movie was over, I was thinking about what Scorsese said about a movie that transforms a theater into a theme park and is no longer cinema. The reason I thought about it was because there's a scene in the movie when a character is doing something. You know, it's a horror movie. There's generally a lapse in judgment from one of the survivors at one point. It's kind of a trope. There's a child reaching for a door latch, and everyone was afraid she was going to turn it and let the monster in. And me and several other people in the theater, we were all saying, you know, no, don't do it, please, or something like this, talking to the screen, even though, of course, the screen can't answer us or anything like that, but it's part of the fun of seeing the movie with a group. Lately, life has been a bit difficult for me. I won't say why. I hope it's going to be solved soon. But for those 90 minutes that I was watching Evil Dead Rise and getting caught up in the, you know, what little story there is there and being shocked by all the grisly, gory stuff that was happening. It's a pretty intense movie. For those 90 minutes, I forgot everything that was bothering me. It was one of the most uplifting cinema experiences I have had in a long time. It was extremely thrilling to be terrified of what I was seeing on the screen, and it took me completely out of my life in a way that I didn't really think was possible, considering what I had been thinking about before stepping into the theater and sitting down in that seat next to my fellow YouTuber Vegeta Jr., by the way. I'll leave a little link down there. He's a Let's Player on YouTube, but he also has a site. Go check him out. He's extremely cool. And you know, horror isn't even one of my favorite genres. I've never seen a horror movie in the theater prior to watching this one, but I got a new respect for it. That was pure entertainment, taking someone who was distracted and overwrought with things that were happening and just making that person forget everything. What a gift that is. Was Evil Dead Rise a complicated movie with layered themes and worthy of like 10 chapters or 30 minutes of discussion the way I've made videos in the past about other movies? Possibly, but there's not really much to dissect. It's a pretty straightforward movie. It got me thinking about something The Critical Drinker said, because I recently did a video responding to The Critical Drinker. It got a lot of views, and probably most of you watching this subscribed because of that video.
Honestly, trying to do any kind of in-depth breakdown of this movie is a bit like a gourmet food connoisseur writing a 10,000 word review of a doner kebab.
Interesting analogy. And I would like to tell you a story. A little aside, in real life I'm a chef. I'm just in front of you guys, I'm just a nerd who likes to share his love of cinema and books and that sort of thing. So the doner kebab gourmet chef thing actually kind of hit me a little personally. Late last year, I went to a expensive restaurant with a friend, and we were picking up recommendations of places we could go. It was kind of a special occasion. And the place we went to, it was a skewer restaurant. I won't name names. And it was really, really expensive. It was quite nice. The presentation was nice, the staff were amazing, the decor was beautiful and all of that. But at the end of the day, I spent quite a bit of money there. And it was tasty, but I wasn't full. A couple of days ago, I was on my way to work, and I had been running an errand. I had to do something. And yes, the backstory linking all of these things together is connected, but that's, private, isn't public. And I was on my way to work, and I'd been doing something, and I had not had food for quite a few hours. And I remembered that there's this place near a mall here in Prague, because I live in Prague, where you can get a, here they call them gyros, but it's a kebab, it's in aluminum foil. It's just a basic little kebab, but you know what? I was full after eating that, and it cost 1/10 maybe of what the two of us had spent at that restaurant last year. At that point, you have to ask yourself, what is the goal of your product? If it's to make people feel full, that kebab did the job. That expensive restaurant did not. At that point, I have to say, who's the better chef? The guy who makes the kebab or the guy who's making the expensive food at a 5-star restaurant? Sure, that expensive food looks nice, but I wasn't full. And Evil Dead Rise, is it phenomenal cinema? Is there something to analyze there? Not really. There's technical things to analyze, special effects, acting, that sort of thing. There's some themes, I guess, but I was entertained. I was taken completely out of the moment, and to my mind, that is cinema. And I thought about the theme park analogy because of how we were interacting with the movie and stuff while it was going on, and we were so immersed in it that we had to speak out loud at things that were happening on the screen. And so yes, it was like a theme park. And my conclusion then is, Martin Scorsese is right. It is like a theme park, that kind of movie. But it's not exclusive to Marvel movies. I would say that it is true of all movies that entertain. They have that same element of a theme park or a scary house or something like that to simply transport you into another mindset and take you away from what you've been thinking about. If that is achieved with, blood and effects within a certain parameter, if you're entertained and in a certain way, I'm not saying this about Scorsese movies in particular. There are quite a few of his movies that I really like. But I think we've all gone to those heady dramas where we're supposed to feel caught up in what's going on, and a couple days later we can't remember anything from it. Sure, it was well shot. There were interesting themes being thrown around. There was interesting camera work, but were you full at the end of it? Not to say those movies aren't fulfilling, many of them are, but when they are fulfilling, they've got that same element of a theme park, of taking you out of your life and putting you mentally someplace else. And so, whether you're watching a Scorsese movie, like Shutter Island, or watching some new horror movie, like Evil Dead Rise, they both achieve the same thing. They take you out of the moment into something else, something interesting, and maybe they'll make you forget about things, or maybe they'll make you think about things, but ultimately it's entertainment. The same way that a kebab is a meal, and sometimes it is more satisfying than something 5-star. Theoretically 5-star, but who deserves the 5 stars at that point, if we're being honest? Back in 1931, a movie called Frankenstein came out with Boris Karloff and Colin Clive, and it was directed by James Whale. The intro of the movie had one of the actors, Edward von Sloan, kind of breaking the fourth wall and appearing to the audience.
I think it will thrill you. It may shock you. It might even horrify you. So if any of you feel that you do not care to subject your nerves to such a strain, now is your chance to, we've warned you.
You know what else that describes? A roller coaster. The same way that simply admitting that a Marvel movie is aimed at 14-year-olds or something like this, the same as Star Wars. All I can say to that is, if you didn't see the Avengers with some little kids in the theater, you were missing out. But, of course, this is all just my opinion. Let me know yours in the comments, and as James A. Janice might say, be good people. Also, since I'm out with the whole chef thing, if you guys get me to, let's say, 10,000 subscribers, I'll try to get Gordon Ramsay to react to waiting.
Back and forth, and finally CGI, and we tried it and said, oh, let's try, let's see, let's experiment, open it up. I mean, CGI, and that, to that extent, is really an evolution of makeup. Really.